Hey everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia back with another episode of the Code Reds podcast on the CLNS Media Network. My pleasure this week to welcome a new guest, the one and only Sam LeCure of Bally Sports Ohio, but most Reds fans, of course, remember him from his outstanding work in the Reds bullpen in the early 2010s. Obviously on those NL Central Division championship teams in 2010 and 2012. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Reds are off to a good start, 9-7, and I'm going to start with a point of view, or at least an area of focus that is near and dear to your heart, and that would be pitching. And I want to focus on three guys in particular. First of all, Hunter Greene, as we record this, he is going to be starting on Tuesday night in Seattle. He's coming off what I would call an uneven performance against the Milwaukee Brewers. Gave up the 5 runs in the first 2 innings and settled down to get through 6. He had trouble with his slider. Sam, what is going to be the key for getting Hunter Greene on track on a consistent basis?
I'd say a lot of it has to do with that pitch that you're talking about, the slider. His career has been uneven. I mean, that start is a kind of a glimpse of the bigger picture of everything that he's done since he's gotten to the big leagues. I mean, he'll go out and he'll have these dominant starts, 3 or 4 in a row. And then he's out and he's walking people and he looks very hittable for whatever the reason is. And then so that was all kind of mixed into that one start with Milwaukee, right? Just the unevenness. So a couple weeks ago, I guess it would have probably been his second, or I guess it had to have been the second start. CC Sabathia was in town to watch the game. He and Hunter are pretty close from growing up out in California.
Right.
And I was kind of asking him the same question. I was like, look, man, if you guys are like buddies and you're talking a good bit, like, I mean, what are you telling him? Like, what's the deal? Because I'm trying to figure it out, for myself, just watching him, every few days. And his answer was the consistency of the breaking ball. Not even, people are talking about, well, he added a curveball, he added a split finger. His fastball and slider are good enough and have been at points to dominate a lineup.
Right.
It's just consistently being able to land it, for strikes early. And I think strike one, I mean, is the biggest pitch in baseball for everybody, but especially a guy like him who can overwhelm you later in the count with his top of the zone fastball and the slider down. So I think for him being able to get into counts with that, some of it I also think is just him getting a feel for pitching. I mean, I kind of say this, and I don't know if it's completely accurate, but it's pretty close. I threw more innings in the minor leagues to get to the big leagues and this is not college, this is not high school. More innings in the minor leagues than Hunter's probably thrown in his life still. So I had a pretty good feel for it. I learned, I had experience to go out there and understand that there's a time to let off the gas. I mean, obviously that's, if I threw 100, maybe I don't know if I would have been able to do it either.
Right.
But, kind of getting into account for him, this would be me blowing my arm out, but a 94 mile an hour fastball for Hunter is kind of a 90% effort level with location, maybe a little bit of movement to maybe get a first pitch ground out, and allow yourself to get a little bit deeper into the game. And I think that for a young pitcher and one with such little experience, his mind says, I have 100. I'm not going to go out there and get beat with 94 if I have 100, but it's understanding the time and the place for it. Who's the guy at the plate, reading those scouting reports of this guy's aggressive early in the count. Okay, well, give him what he wants, but give it to him like you want to give it to him. Tease him with it, that down and away fastball, but a little bit off because he wants to go get it. Just different little nuance of pitching like that you're just not going to be able to tell him. He's going to have to go out there and learn it.
Young pitchers with strong arms and really relatively good health. He's had obviously Tommy John, I believe, early in his career, but he's come back from that. He's fully healthy, knock wood. Sometimes it takes a while for pitchers to learn, or young pitchers to learn how to pitch, learn the craft. Do you still see that from Hunter?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, I mean, in large part, I'm not even sure if he scratched the surface of what he's capable of being at this level because because he just hadn't done it, and that excuse needs to go away pretty quick. But it is true, and he's learning how to pitch and learning how to do it in the toughest place to pitch in the world, right, in the big league. So I mean, it's
Sure.
it's pretty much double tough, and just he's surviving right now because he's so talented.
What I
Um,
see, not to interrupt you, Sam,
Go
but
ahead.
what I see sometimes from Hunter, and I know a lot of fans, they watch him, they watch this guy with extraordinary talent.
Yep.
His fastball gets too flat. And
Yeah.
I don't see him using his height enough to throw with a downward plane. Chris Welsh makes this point all the time on the broadcast. And I know Cowboy is, a fan of not only throwing strike one, but changing eye angles. And I'm
Yes.
sure you are too. When you
Yep.
watch these guys, you have a different perspective. You actually played the sport, and you know how important it is to change the eye angle,
Yeah. The
hitters
eye level. Yeah.
eye level. Thank you.
Yep.
And I just don't see that enough from Hunter.
I don't either, and I think the league in general has gotten obsessed with that top of the zone fastball,
Yep.
which I mean, again, I mean that's changing eye level, but he's almost for me working a little bit too much up there in that upper quadrant. You'll see, and maybe I can use my hand to do it. That upper corner here or that
Sure.
upper corner here, the up and in. And when he's missing a little bit up or a little bit off. But for me, the high fastball complemented the overhand curveball, not the slider. Like the slider is a pitch that you want the fastball at the bottom of the zone to play the slider off of that. So he's not complementing. I mean, and he throws 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but his most important pitch is that slider. He's not using the bottom of the zone to complement
Right.
the slider as far as you hear the tunneling phrases. You want things to come right off of each other and to be the fastball and then the slider. They come out of the same the same area. So I think that's been something that he's not done enough for me to just be at the bottom of the zone, establish strike one down there, and then once he's gotten that, the slider is just going to play better because of it. And then once you get into the count a little bit and you've sequenced it where it's a fastball here and the slider right off of it, then you change your eye level, right? And then once you're back at the bottom of the zone, that 100 zips in there a little bit, or that slider looks a little bit better out of the hand. You can grab a little bit more plate and take some off of it, different little things like that. So again, to the excuse that I'm using, and it's not because it's a fact, and Hunter's aware of it. He's not going to use it as a crutch, but it's just going to have to go out there and he's going to have to experience it and succeed with it because he will, once he does it, because he's just that talented.
When I was in the press conference room after that start against Milwaukee last week, the one thing I did notice is he wanted to point out the positive from the outing, and that was he got 6 innings.
He did,
And I
which is
think
great.
which is great. And as we saw on Monday night with obviously Frankie Montas struggling to get out of the first inning, he got almost 3 innings in, but innings do matter, especially early in the season. And for Hunter to figure out a way to get through 6 innings and David Bell to allow him to get to 6 innings, I thought that was the silver lining.
I thought it was huge, and that may be something that springboards you forward because there's been plenty of times where I started earlier in my career and it was if I gave up 5 in the first and then finished with 5 scoreless, that's way different than going 5 scoreless and finishing with 5 in the sixth. It's just a different taste. It's the same
Right.
line score, but it's a completely different taste in your mouth. And so for Hunter to go out there, I mean, that is a badge of honor to go out there and be able to eat up some innings, quality innings. He settled in there and kind of found his groove, and that's when you want to get a starting pitcher. Anybody's going to tell you that's ever pitched is you want to get them early because once they get into a rhythm, then they're a little bit tougher to handle. But I think Hunter learned a good bit about himself, about what it takes. Again, a learning experience. I mean, it's all going to be such a learning curve for him, and he's going to shorten it because of his talent. But yeah, I thought that was really important for him, just and a sign of maturity that he's kind of growing. And hopefully can figure this thing out pretty quick because I just want I want from Hunter And all these pitchers, these guys, their progression's been stunted. Each of them, kind of talk about Hunter, Lodolo, Ashcraft, maybe not so much Abbott, but Abbott's still kind of learning it too, which I love him. With injury, those guys, none of them have made the full slate of starts and had an opportunity. It's been maybe they're getting it and then it's interrupted for a several month period because of an injury, or then it gets to the off season. But I just want 30 starts out of them, and I want to see what it looks like. And then I think if they get 30 starts this year, I think they're going to get much better. I think next year that they would blossom.
I think Cincinnati Reds fans were jubilant, full of ecstasy when they watched Nick Lodolo on Saturday.
They wasn't the only one.
5 no-hit innings. I got to tell you, Sam, to come right off the injured list and not have pitched in the majors in 11 months and put out that kind of performance. Yes, it was against the now 2-14 White Sox. Forget the competition. Lodolo doing what he did on Saturday was about him facing Nick Lodolo, dealing with Nick Lodolo himself.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what impressed me the most. It's a matter of him staying healthy, staying on the mound. To me, that is the number one priority.
Absolutely. And I was kind of set on the post-game show or something. I don't care if it was the 1927 Yankees. If he throws the ball like that, it doesn't matter. He beats everybody like that. I mean, just to come out and locate the ball like that, the fastball location was outstanding. He was able to get it in on those right-handers, climb the zone with it. We know about the curveball. He's getting people to swing at it as it hits them in the leg.
Back foot, the back foot curveball.
The true back foot breaking ball, man. But the thing I love the most, honestly, was his changeup. I mean, I love the location of everything.
Yeah.
Was number one for me, but his changeup I thought was, out of this world, because everybody's keyed in on those two pitches. Now he's got something to fade away from the right-handers. I thought it was, he was just across the board. Aces, man. And that guy, since they started talking about this big three, him and Hunter and Graham,
right?
Everybody had Hunter at the top of the list. I haven't, just because Nick had a little bit more pedigree as far as pitching in a major college, being that kind of having a little bit more aptitude for it. And he's just so different. You've been in Boston a little bit. They had a guy there here recently named Chris Sale, and there's just nobody else that I can think of but him to compare. Everybody I watch pitch, I'm thinking of a comparable, right? And it's Chris Sale. He just, the length, the arm angle, the breaking ball, the ability to run the fastball up there.
Early in Sale's career, he was able to stay healthy. Then he started to break down a little bit.
Right.
And Nick's got to overcome that. There's no doubt about that. I want to move on to a third picture. There are 3 pictures I told you I wanted to focus on. This is more up your alley. It's a reliever. It's the closer, Alexis Diaz.
Okay.
Maybe I'm overreacting here, but I don't get the sense right now, and granted, we are 13, 14 games into the season, he hasn't found his rhythm yet, and he hadn't pitched in about a week. But I still don't know if Alexis Diaz is a lockdown closer. Do you think he can be?
Yes.
And why?
I'll answer that. Well, just because he's done it. I've seen it, and he's got the demeanor for it. Somebody did bring this up to me, and I guess I didn't realize it because I felt like he was still converting saves. He had an excellent save percentage last year, I thought. That since maybe August 1st or something of last year, I think they were saying his ERA down the stretch, and he got used a lot. And
no question.
There's a fatigue factor to this too, but his ERA was 6.5 or something.
Right.
And then he had the outing on
against the
Nationals. It was a first game or two of the season, and he gave it up.
Yeah, it was his first blown. It was the Saturday game.
Yeah,
and I believe Hunter Greene's first start, and the Reds had a 6-4 lead, I believe it was, heading into the 9th, and he
coughed it up
badly. Yes.
Yeah, last year. Even this year, obviously, I believed in him because based on what he did last year, but he's running out of the bullpen, and I'm starting to get ready for the post-game show, right? I mean, I'm like, well, we don't have to play the
Right.
bottom of the ninth there, and he just didn't look right. He looked flat. I've noticed a little bit with most of these guys. I feel like that their velocities have been down a tick or two.
Hmm.
I mean, really
Why
across
does
the
that
board.
matter to a reliever? Why does that matter?
More, and I kind of talked about this last night with we're talking about Buck Farmer. It looks like he's really having to put a lot of effort into it to get it
Yep.
up there at 92, 93. But it just looks like it's rolling, like it's just like there's not that second half of the pitch that is finish, snap, you know what I mean? And so velocity, not really, unless it's mentally. If you're kind of in your range a little, if you're close to it, not so much. But just if you look up at the board and you're used to seeing a 96 up there and you look up and you see a 92 or 3, it's like, uh-oh. You kind of think to yourself, I never had to worry about that. If I saw 90, if I saw 92 or 93, maybe I was wound up that day. But for him, it's more just notice the swings, just like keep an eye on the swings
That's a
and how
great point.
and
Yeah.
how they're reacting to the pitch, because he's got all that funk in his delivery, which I think is another reason where maybe he hasn't quite found his rhythm yet, because hell, man, he's all over the place. And that's
Correct.
like
There's a
that
lot to the delivery.
a lot to it. So if something's off, you got a lot of places to look to find it, because it's going to be real small. Like you kind of got to work from the ground up. You start at the base. What's my legs doing? How are my hands starting? Are they
Right.
breaking into all this? And he's got all that to kind of sift through to figure out where the little, which screws loose. So it'll take him longer than most guys, than a Graham Ashcraft who's just out of the stretch, real simple, up, down, and go. There's not a lot to that. So it's going to be harder for him to find, but I still think that when the fastball's in the zone, it's got that
Late life.
invisibility to it or something, the spin or whatever from the arm angle. I never thought, I'm still not sure. I think his slider's good, but it seems to play really well. And he's going to it a lot more this year than I felt like he did last year. But the long answer, the short answer to your question is, do I think he can be a lockdown closer? I absolutely do, because you make your an all-star team in your first year. That's pretty good.
So, full disclosure here, I think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I may
You're
be
not but you're not the only
overreacting.
one.
Uh,
I've heard a
It's
lot
just that
of
when
people
I
saying
see
this.
him come into a game, because there is so much to his delivery. I've talked to Rob Dibble about this, and he's like, it's funny, because Rob had a lot going on with his delivery as well. When you feel like you're all together, you feel different. You feel confident.
Yeah.
But when you feel like one little thing is out of place, you adjust for it. And sometimes I think I see that a little bit with Alexis, but I think he has a great support system. I'm a Derek Johnson fan. I think he he works very well with the pitching staff, and it's a long season, so I think
Yeah.
he'll get it figured out. I want to move on to the position players, and I know Spencer Steer's off to a great start, but
Yep.
I think you can make the case for Jonathan India as an MVP early on in this season. The reason I feel that way is he's provided a lot of stability at the top of the lineup. He's a leader. I actually think if he stays around, he has captain type qualities, and I think sometimes a captain does matter. There are so many intangibles that Jonathan India brings to this ball club, and I think he's shown that early in this season.
He has, and it's funny how the game works out, right? I mean, a week into spring training, it's like, man, where are all these guys going to play? Jonathan's going to be a super utility. This guy's this place. And now Matt McLean's out and Noelvi Marte's out and TJ Friedel's out. And it's kind of settled into, you've got Candelario playing third base every day, which is what he's done in his, in the past, has been an everyday third baseman. Jonathan's been everyday second base, and they've been there every game. And Jonathan, I think just the fact that he didn't flinch, and I'm sure internally he did, and at home he did, but I bet you not in the clubhouse, not in the media at all. Like, he feels like he's an above average everyday major league second baseman, but he didn't flinch at the fact that he would move around and find a way to force his way into the lineup every single day, no matter where he was playing. I think that's a leadership quality that, you can't overstate it or understate it, whichever way.
Yeah.
But I just think for the fact for him to come in there, I mean, last year when they were calling it America's team, they were calling him Captain Jack, because he's got the Pirates of the Caribbean thing going on. And so just that little moniker itself and the way that they talk about him when asked about him, the other guys, I'm not going to hear this from Jonathan. You shouldn't hear it from Jonathan. But the way that they talk about him, like he's our leader, we get energy from him, the way he plays out there, going hard at it every day. It's just hard to kind of quantify it without being in the clubhouse. It's nothing that you and I go into the clubhouse for media hour or whatever it is. Like, it's not something that we're just going to see in there. It's not like he's got, some kind of shrine around his locker and his captain, all this stuff. But
office of the captain.
Yeah,
of
right.
His locker stall. Everybody who needs help, come here.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
It's not that, but I did, because I didn't buy it. I wasn't buying it. But when he missed time last year, and then came back, I notice a difference in the quality of play when he's on the field.
Yes.
And that, to me, speaks louder than anything. Just his presence there means something. Whether he's hitting 300 or not, it's a big deal. So I think that certainly, since he's so recently gone through things with success, winning Rookie of the Year, as a lot of these young players are, like, they saw him win Rookie of the Year. Like, they know who Jonathan India is, because some of them might have even close to played against him, right, in college because of their age. But he's been around longer than anybody on this team, other than now Candelario. So I think they look to him because he can relate to it. He's succeeded at it. He's had some struggles so he's been through a lot in a short amount of time. So with that experience, comes wisdom, and I think he's been past. And he plays hard. He's all about it.
Elly De La Cruz made another play, Sam, on Monday night that was eye-popping.
That nobody else can.
That sliding catch, pretty much back to the infield, that he made, sixth inning. The Reds were well behind, but he made that catch, and you just stopped and said, "Yeah," like you just said, Sam. Nobody else is going to make that catch the way he made it. And I will tell you, when he popped up, I'm like, "Oh God!"
Oh, you saw it too?
I'm like, he didn't just pull at his hammy, did he?
Yeah.
Because you hold your breath every time Elly makes a play like that. You do hold your breath, like, just don't get hurt.
It's not holding your breath; it's him taking your breath away.
There you go. Well played, Sam. Have you ever seen a player like him that you can comp right off the top of your head? Because I haven't really.
The only other guy, just because of the size and all the things, is that kid from Pittsburgh, the O'Neal Cruz.
Correct.
But still not. There's something. Elly's, he's something different, and because I think once you start to, we can see the tools, we see all that, right? It's pretty hard to miss. That kid's. I think he's a good baseball player. Like, instinctually, I think he's ahead of everybody else as far as reading what's happening on the field. And, kind of go back to, and everybody should remember this, is when he stole all the bases against Milwaukee in the one inning.
Right. Three bases on two pitches.
Two pitches. Different stuff, like him changing the mitten, they wear them oven mittens out there, changing it mid run around the bases because of how he's going to slide into the base and which hand he's going to grab it with. Like, he's already that far. He's already a base level.
Yes.
He's already a base ahead. And then never turning it off, watching the pitcher as he's kind of walking. Elly's kind of creeping down the line, and the pitcher's over there thinking, what the hell's going on? And then he goes as, the pitcher kind of takes his hat off or takes his hand out of to rub the ball down or something like that. the instincts added with the tools, I mean, he's got a chance to be the best player in baseball. I mean, aside Shohei Ohtani's kind of his own deal, but he's aside from, and Elly could probably throw 97 off a mound too. But
well, you know what? I want to stop you right there because John Sadak and Cowboy on the air during the broadcast on Monday night
the outfield thing
made that point about him eventually playing in the outfield, and I think Cowboy pointed out, and I agree with this 1,000%. You want him to get his hitting down to the point where he's not worried about another position and still not totally in his groove at the plate. Yeah. And I think that matters to the Reds. And I think he can still be what I think is an A quality shortstop, but he could be an A+ outfielder.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that he could. I am, the fact that I guess it just puts a bitter taste in my mouth to talk about it already because I think he hasn't had the opportunity to prove himself to be a really good shortstop. And everybody thinks, oh, you put him in the outfield, that's easy because he's athletic. I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, like Billy Hamilton, because they compared him to Billy. I mean, Billy came up as a shortstop and was an amazing. There was nobody I'd rather watch play center field than Billy Hamilton.
Right.
Ever. Maybe Jim Edmonds. But Billy Hamilton to watch run it down to the gap, I mean, was the funnest. And Elly could absolutely do that. But I guess I hadn't considered that only because he's still kind of learning to play shortstop. And he had like a couple little scuffles, but I can see him there be change. I think the roster construction plays into a lot of that. I mean, okay, so you're going to put Elly in center field. Where's TJ Friedl going to play? Okay, well, TJ is going to play left. Well, where's Spencer going to play? All right, well, if Spencer can play right, well, where's Jake Fraley and Will Benson going to play? I mean, you've got the pieces now that it's not a consideration to me.
Yeah, and I'm talking about down the road.
And I know that, but first things first for me. It's and that's just the baseball mentality. Is one day at a time. You got to take care of number one, and number one's today. Why get in a theoretical conversation about something
it's when we do, Sam.
I know, and I'm trying. Look, I mean, being in the media now for a few years, I definitely have learned that about the media's with the speculation, and I appreciate that. I totally get that, and it's part of it because it's fun fodder and talking points around the water cooler, and I get that too. But I don't want say Elly turns the thing on, and obviously he's not going to watch the broadcast during the game while he was at shortstop, but he watches it as like, well, why don't they think I can play shortstop? Like, what have I done so egregiously to, and it starts to plant a negative seed in the player's head. And if he catches wind of it, because, somebody that he knows or knows somebody he knows is going to watch this, and say, well, why is this such a talking point? Like, I've played a pretty good shortstop so far this year, and he has played a pretty good shortstop this year. Make some of those spectacular plays. I mean, geez. I mean, some of them are just our jaw.
Well, I mean, Monday night was a all-timer in terms of athletic ability.
And I mean, the jump one and some of the relay throws. I mean,
you and I remember Barry Larkin, Pokey Reese. We remember, a lot of the Reds have been blessed with a lot of great athletic infielders. No question about Davey Concepcion, obviously, Joe Morgan, but Elly makes plays athletically that nobody else can the way he makes them.
Nobody.
And I think we're going to leave it right there. I want to move on to something else, Sam, away from the baseball diamond, but still related.
But that's why you leave him at shortstop.
Very good.
I'm getting in the last word because he can do things there that nobody can do.
There you go. Okay. And I agree with that. I think that's accurate. It's just he's got to work on his fielding, and once he gets that down, he will be an all-star caliber shortstop. No doubt in my mind. Bronson Arroyo. I covered the man back in the days, the glory days of the Red Sox. This is the 20th anniversary of their 2004 World Championship team. Of course, a lot of Red Sox fans remember Bronson for that notorious Alex Rodriguez play at first base in Game 6 of the 2004 ALCS. Of course, the Red Sox went on to win the ALCS, beat the Cardinals in 4 games. And you were a teammate, of course, of Bronson Arroyo's for several years, those division winning teams in 2010, 2012. What makes Bronson Arroyo such a special individual, athlete, and off the field as well?
Well, a lot. How much time you got? I mean,
as much as you can afford.
On the pitching side of it, I mean, the guy's work ethic. I mean, you look at him and you think, oh, I mean, this guy's 6'4", but he's 170 pounds soaking wet. Like, I mean, this guy spent as much time in the gym. He was as meticulous with what he did as anybody I'd ever seen to that point, as far as when he's going to eat, when he's going to sleep, what he's going to eat, what the workout is, what the, cardio or whatever, that type of stuff. And not only when. He would go to the ballpark and throw at what would appear to be completely random times based on what time of the day his start was going to be. Because he wanted to start to acclimate his body to peaking at a certain moment. He's like, oh, well, I'm throwing in a day game. Well, I'm going to throw my bullpen. I'm going to get to the ballpark at 1:00 on, whatever day it is, to throw my bullpen then. So my body's used to doing it. Little things like that with time change. If we're flying to the West Coast and he had a start there, he would alter his throwing program to match up with the West. So little nuanced stuff like that, I mean, I wouldn't even have thought about. I just get to the ballpark and go through my thing and do it. And so the work ethic, I mean, he did work really hard. The attention to detail, the uniqueness of how he went about it, of how he pitched. With, I talk about letting off the gas a little bit. I mean, Bronson went here. I mean, I guess he'd still run it up 93, 94, but he wasn't scared to get into the count with an 82-mile-an-hour fastball and then throw an 83-mile-an-hour changeup. Just like kind of wild stuff. Obviously, the arm angle, and he dropped down a little bit, had the curveball. The only person who's ever actually thrown a sweeper. I don't know what the hell they're calling it now, but I mean, Bronson that was a sweeper.
Yes.
Okay. Everything else is a slider now, but so that stuck out, and because of all that, he threw 200 innings every year, for 10 years in a row, except one. And that was in New York, and he threw a complete game in his last start of the year to finish on 199.
Yes.
But
he told me that actually when I saw him over the winter, he regretted that one inning that he missed. I forget what year it was, but
I mean, he was. I think he was maybe sick.
It mattered to him.
Oh yeah, it does, big time. Now he made, and we went into extra innings that game. It was tied, and I bet you any money Dusty would have sent him back out for the 10th had his spot in the order not come up. To let him get, and Bronson would have gone out there and he would have got it, no question.
You've played with Bronson, right?
Yeah,
many times.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think you both share a passion for music?
And so I think that this would lend itself to kind of why do I think Bronson's one of the most interesting men in the world? Because I do. Like, he's very attentive. The way his mind works, as far as getting interested in different things. I mean, he came over the other day. I've been taking guitar lessons for about a year. Right. I know Bronson has been playing forever and has always been, a passion of his. So it's just been nice for us to have an excuse to spend a little bit more time together, because we always have a great time, and he's so, thoughtful about everything. If you are having a conversation with him, he may not know you from Adam, but I mean, he is right there.
Yep.
And cares, and has a thought about it. But so he came over on Sunday. He calls me. He said, "Hey man, I'm gonna run down to this. I'm gonna run out of the casino real quick. I'm gonna check on this craps theory." Like, it's just like he's interested in so much different stuff, but he wanted to go out and try this little method out. And he's like, "It might take me a while to grind to profit,"
So he's talking to craps, as in the card game,
as in the dice game. The dice game.
Dice game. Yeah, of course.
But he just gets fixated on these little things, and he wants to go try it out to see if he can kind of win. and whatever. And it's not winning; it's the application of a method to get
It's
a
the way
desired
his
result.
mind works.
It's the way his mind works, and that is why he just gets. He's fascinating, dude. I mean, if you obviously you've talked to him plenty and been around him enough. I mean, he's fascinating. Just the nicest guy. Still takes good care of himself. Takes great care of the people around him. Never would deny a request. So yeah, it's I mean, fortunate to have been able to watch him play and win some ball games with him, but definitely happy that that's been one of my main things that I've been happy about being in Cincinnati is still getting a chance to spend some time with him. There's a couple other guys that'll kind of in and out of here a little bit, but yeah, he's definitely. I would never say that I had a favorite teammate. I mean,
Right.
I'd have a long list of tied for first, but he's certainly right there with it.
I really appreciate your time, Sam, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of words about, or to share a couple of words about Dusty Baker.
Oh, okay.
What it was like playing for who is clearly going to be a Hall of Fame manager.
It was, you get to the big leagues and you're kind of trying to survive a little bit. And Dusty's kind of there. Dusty just has immediate respect because of everything he's done in the game, right? I mean, from the player to the manager to, the Darren Baker moment that everybody remembers, JT Snow getting him at home plate, to the toothpick, to the Bartman game. I mean, all the stuff that he was involved in. That's just Barry Bond, crazy, right?
I'll tell you what I remember him the most for, and this is just me as a child of the '70s. Hank Aaron's teammate.
Oh yeah,
in 1974. That's what will. On the Dodger teams, and his relationship with Hank Aaron, I should say. And that's what I remember Dusty for, the way he grew up and came up in the game.
And he always will always reference Hank Aaron.
Yes.
I mean, if he's always reference it like it was his, godfather almost. And I remember getting to meet Hank Aaron when we were in Atlanta. That's another thing that's a good representative of Dusty is the who's who of red carpet people that would come through the clubhouses to see Dusty.
Oh.
Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong coming in. To see Dusty. Whoever coming in to see Dusty. And so I'm out in a few years ago, I was living out in Manhattan Beach, which is just south of LA or a little bit. And what the hell was he doing? He must not have. Maybe he was in between the Nationals and Astros.
Yeah, that would make sense. That timeline would make sense.
Yeah, I think so. And it was, I don't remember if it was COVID or somewhere right around there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He's amazing at just kind of reaching out to people. I bet you he has a calendar, and on every day of the year, he's got 5 people's names written in it, and he reaches out, and it might just be one time a year.
Yep.
But he reaches out to me once or twice a year.
That's amazing to me.
And he does it with everybody. I guarantee it. He had to have had 10,000 text messages after he won the World Series, and I bet you he answered every one of them. So I'm out in Manhattan Beach, and I called him or something. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I knew he wasn't working, but I knew he was in San Francisco, and
sure.
I was like, "Oh, I'm living out in Manhattan Beach." I was like, "Oh, Sammy, you got out to California?" He's like, "I didn't see that out of you, or whatever," which I didn't see it out of me either. But he's like, "Well, I'm going to be down there." He's like, "I'm going to be down there. I'm working on, he has got his vineyard, so he was doing Baker wines, and he's like, I'm going to be down there." So I'm like, "All right, cool. Me and my buddy are going to come and meet you at this, the lobby of this hotel or whatever it was," and we get over there, and I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody else. Michael Jordan could have been in there.
Yeah.
But the crowd of people around Dusty just sitting at the bar, like drinking his wine, holding court. Wherever this guy goes, he's got this energy that is tangible that, it just draws you to him because, he and Bronson are in the same light. Very chill, very attentive, thoughtful. They think of you. They take care of you. They reach out to you. But that was cool. And I'm like, what the hell's like? Who knows the people? What do people in Manhattan Beach know about Dusty Baker? I was like, they know the Dodgers. And the fact that, from the early 80s or whatever it was, late 70s, 80s, they're still coming around and they recognize when Dusty Baker comes through town. Like, I mean, this dude is a dude. Like, he's never treated somebody wrong. I've never met anybody who doesn't just ooze.
Sam, whether it's in baseball or not, the way somebody treats other people is the way I judge.
Measure. Yeah.
Yes.
And
so that's the measure of a man.
Then Dusty Baker is the man.
On that note, I think I'm going to let you go, Sam. I want to be sure to let people know they can catch Sam LeCure on Bally Sports Ohio on the Reds pre and post game shows with Brian Giesenslaw and Annie Sabo as well. When Annie's in the studio.
Doing a little bit of back and forth right now. Brian was yesterday. He's got his last hockey game tonight. So I got Annie, and then it'll be pretty much the Geese and Sam show for a little while.
And Brian will be on this very podcast, Sam, you'll be happy to know, next week.
Oh,
so there you go.
Don't ask him any questions about me. I don't want you to make him lie in public.
No, I think I'm sure he will speak very highly of you.
If he says anything about me like I say about Dusty and Bronson, I know I'm at least heading in the right direction.
Yes, indeed. Well, Sam, thanks so much for taking time out.
You got it, Mike. I appreciate it, bud.
All right. He is Sam LeCure. I'm Mike Petralia Trags. Thanks for downloading this episode of the Code Reds podcast on the CLNS Media Network. Sam, that was great.
Cool. All good.
Enjoy your pod. I was going to shout out the music salon, but I didn't do that.
Oh, so. Yeah, I'm heading over there in about an hour, so we'll see what we got. We've been having some pretty good sessions. So Bronson will come over, and as will my guitar teacher. And I don't remember how. So when I was getting into town, and I guess this was before last season, I said, "Hey man, do you know anybody around there I can take some guitar lessons from?" And he looked around and found the guy that he recommended this guy to me, who I didn't realize it at the time, but I had actually met. I was at an FC game. One of my buddies is part owner of it, and Sean was in there. I hadn't realized it at the time, and he gives that guy lessons. So the guitar world around Cincinnati is pretty small, so everybody kind of knows each other. But Sean's great, and he likes to, come out and hang. So we've had something. We're trying to do a Sunday sessions at Sammy's. So just
if you see Bronson, just tell him Mike Petralia says hi. I'm sure he'll remember the name, but I'm the guy that did stand-up comedy in Boston. He'll definitely remember that. So
all right, I'll let him know.
There you go.
I'll see him Thursday. We're getting out and enjoying another passion of golf.
You're going to be at the ballpark on Friday?
I shall.
Okay, I will stop by and say hi because I will be working up in the press box.
Okay, that sounds good, Mike.
Sam, thanks so much.
You got it, bud. Take care.